students are still in Ukraine and trying to get out, and others are in other European countries. Some have left for Africa, like one medical student who is now safely back home in Ghana. She shared her experience with us.
Together again, Priscilla Ajar and her father Samuel, after a terrifying week. The fifth-year medical student was studying at a university in western Ukraine when the war broke out.
It was very tough. It was horrible. Like, I remember I was shivering, literally, when my school said that, okay, you guys could go home. I was like, which means the school sees the intensity of it now.
There was similar fear back home in Ghana. Her family was closely monitoring events in faraway Ukraine, and not for the first time.
The anxiety is a reminiscent of what happened in 2014, because in 2014, my son was also in Donetsk, and the same issue happened, and they had to virtually run from Donetsk to the capital, Kyiv. So when the second one also started from last week, a whole lot of anxiety, emotional trauma, let's put it that way. The entire family was put into that.
Priscilla made for the border closest to her city.
And we took a bus. So after we just took a bus, and then after some time, the buses were not moving, vehicles are not moving anymore. So we had to trek for, I think, over an hour and a half. Yes, so that's how we got to the border. And then the border, it was messy. So many people, Ukrainians, Ghanaians, Nigerians, Zimbabweans, Egyptians, Indians, everybody in Chelsea was going there.
She crossed into Romania and, like many other Ghanaian students, made it back home safely. But Priscilla still has major concerns as the war escalates in Ukraine.
So let's say that they destroy everything in the country. The country has to go through redevelopmental stages again. So what's at stake for us? I don't know if our school buildings will be destroyed, whatever. So it's quite burdensome, and it's worrying, very worrying. That we don't know if we can go back to school, if we would finish, if we would complete. Are we going to go back to square one or what?
The answers might not come for a while, but being with family can be the great comfort Priscilla and others like her need right now.
Now, Priscilla Aja and others are safely home now, but many others are not. While some have made it out of Ukraine and are now in neighboring countries, there are still some African nationals stuck in Ukraine and trying to get out. Earlier, I spoke to Husseini Umar Madakawi. He's the chairperson of the Nigerian diaspora in Hungary. He was at the border between Hungary and Ukraine.
We are here to assist Nigerians, guide them how to get to the city. We brought along with us from Budapest some humanitarian clothes, some winter clothes, and some items for those who arrived from Ukraine. We help them, guide them to the United States, where the United States for them to be evacuated.
Husseini, we were hearing, or have been hearing, accounts of Africans trying to leave Ukraine. They've been reporting that they've been not allowed into trains leaving Ukraine. They say they've experienced racism and ill treatment from Ukrainian officials that are on the ground. Are you still hearing accounts? Is this still continuing to happen as people try to leave Ukraine?
Well, we hear about this situation, but we cannot verify it because our job is limited to coming to Hungarian border. What's happening at the Ukrainian border, we have no idea, but we have people calling and making complaints that they are being taken off from the train, from the buses, but we don't know for what reason.
Husseini, how many people do you know of that are still in Ukraine and want to get out? What are they telling you?
it's very difficult to predict how many people are still in Ukraine because we don't have the actual number of them before now. So all I know that it's not only me, all the executive of NIDO, Hungary, we share our phone numbers. They are calling us, getting to get information on what to do, how to come to Hungary, and what help can we offer them. We tell them what we can do for them. And some parents, of course, out of desperation, they are calling and crying and telling us that their children are dying, their children are in the border and they don't know what to do. We try to calm them down and tell them we are on top of the situation. In synchron with the embassy, we are trying to do our best to see what we can do for them and how we can help them. We guide many of them to the hotel, to a place where the charity organization is providing shelter for them. The NIDO Hungary now provide food for them. We have volunteers who go there to cook for them, and we share all the pictures of what we... Yes,
understood,
please.
But sorry, we're talking about the people who are still in Ukraine right now. We'll talk about those that have left. But for those who are still in Ukraine, what kind of support do they need to leave?
Many of them are on their way. So the question they ask mainly is that which is the easiest border for them to cross. So as I told you earlier, that as they are scattered in Ukraine, in different cities, whichever border is closer for them to go, that's where we will advise to go. So we don't restrict them to come into Hungary because some of them are not closer to Hungarian border.
Okay. And for those that have now managed to get out and are now, some are in Poland, Slovakia, and others in Hungary, where you are, what is their situation there?
The situation is still chaotic. We're trying to gather them, register them, put them in the hotel. We have charity organizations that offer, including some district counties, offer places for those coming in to accommodate them for a short period of time, and we are just directing them there.
That was Husseini Umar Madakawi speaking to us from the border between Hungary and Ukraine. Now, the first group of more than 400 Nigerians evacuated from Ukraine have landed in Abuja. The group comprised mostly of students. They arrived on a government-chartered flight from Romania's capital, Bucharest. They are among 14,000 Nigerian nationals who were known to be in Ukraine before the war began. That's according to the Nigerian Foreign Ministry's figures. Now, it is unclear if and when they can go back to Ukraine. Now, this week, the UN General Assembly overwhelmingly denounced Russia for invading Ukraine. But while most of the world stood together in rebuking Russia's aggression, many African countries opted to stay neutral and not take a stance. In a vote at the UN General Assembly, 141 countries voted in favor of a resolution that also ordered Russia to withdraw its troops from Ukraine. Only 4 countries joined Russia in voting against the resolution. Of the 35 countries that abstained, 17 are from Africa. They include Zimbabwe, Uganda, Senegal, and South Africa. To talk more about that, we invited the analyst Anu Adeoye from the think tank Chatham House onto the program. He has been researching ties between African countries and Russia. I asked him why he thinks many African nations chose to abstain in that UN vote and to what extent that reflects the views of ordinary people in these countries.
I mean, ultimately, the reasons why a few of these countries like South Africa and Zimbabwe, for example, gave for abstaining was the fact that they said that they did not see anything in the resolution that would have made peace easier to achieve in the conflict between Russia and Ukraine. So I think the surprising thing for me as an analyst is that if both of these countries thought the resolution was not well written, I think they should have voted it down instead of abstaining from the vote yesterday.
All right. As I was saying, you focus on Russia in Africa. That is the focus of your work. How would you characterize Russia's presence in Africa today? Is Russia a significant player in and on the continent?
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends on how you define significance. But the truth of the matter is Russia has an eye on Africa. Since 2014, after it annexed Crimea in Ukraine, it has decided that it needs a pivot to find partners outside of the West. And Africa is one such place where it has decided to seek new partners. Russia's main strategy in Africa has been defense and security partnership, but it is also trying to increase trade links with African countries. At the UN Security Council just earlier this year, it supported Mali, a country that it is growing closer to, by blocking the votes on ECOWAS sanctions on Mali. So that's part of Russia's strategy on Africa, to try and increase trade links, but also get some support for its position at multilateral organizations like the UN.
Understood. And let's stay on Mali, as you've brought Mali up. I want to specifically ask you about that country, because we know Mali has been battling this jihadist insurgency for just about a decade now. And last month, France and other Western allies announced that they will be withdrawing their presence from that country. And it's almost, it's been said that Russia is going to be filling that void. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, as you said, Mali has been battling some Islamist insurgency for almost a decade now. Last year, President Emmanuel Macron announced that he was going to reduce the number of French troops in the Sahel. And the way the Malians responded was to say that they were going to shop for new security partners. But I think there's more to this. There's obviously more to the story than just France drawing out some of their troops. As you well know, there have been two coups in Mali. First in August 2020 and secondly in May 2021. That has led to a rupture in relationship between France and Mali. And so in that vacuum, the Russian private military company called Wagner has stepped in to fill the role. And I think for people who don't know, Wagner is a private military company that is often deployed to hotspots around the world. They are fought in Syria, they are fought in Libya, they've been in Central African Republic, and now they are going to be in Mali to assist their partners in Mali.
All right, that is Anu Adeode talking to us there from the Chatham House think tank. Thank you, Anu. Let's stay with Mali, because not only was the country among those who didn't condemn Russia in that UN vote, but it is one example of a country seeking closer ties with Russia, especially as the long-standing relationship with the former colonial power France deteriorates. DW's West Africa correspondent Rose Chikura is in the country, and she met a group who see Russia as the best partner for the country going forward.
Abat la France. Now that loosely translates to thumbs down France, and that's one of the major messages of this group, the Yerowolo movement. Now the Yerowolo movement has been growing very fast here in Mali. They started in 2019 with only 12 members, and now they tell me they can't even keep tabs with exactly how many people are members of the group. And many people here in Mali believe that this group is the only hope for the future of a truly independent Mali. Adama Ben Diarra is leading this movement. He was at the forefront of the massive protests that led to the ousting of the French ambassador and the French military. He is now a member of the transition parliament, and he is pushing for stronger ties between Mali and Russia.
It's only logical that we're pursuing a win-win relationship with Russia. Russia was our first partner after independence, and we found that Russia is sincere in their partnership. That's why we prefer Russia over France. Our choice is justified because Russia has never colonized any country.
Mali's partnership with Moscow runs deep. Mali receives most of its military equipment from Russia. Hundreds of Russian mercenaries operating under the Kremlin-linked Wagner Group are deployed in Mali, and most of the current military leaders were trained in Russia. Many even speak the language. Some observers, however, say strengthening the Russian-Malian relationship might not be the best solution in the long run.
Maybe today it just feels like the military answer is the best answer. So probably, even if you look at world ranking, Russia would be a better option because it's the second, military power in the world. But economically, it's not the best partnership for us. I think if we want to fix things, we have to fix us. We have to fix ourselves.
If it was up to the Yerewolo movement, Mali would cut ties to France entirely. That seems almost impossible though, as French influence pervades almost every aspect of life here.
They're calling it a watershed moment for the planet. UN countries have agreed to create a legally binding global treaty to address plastic pollution in the world's oceans and rivers and landscape.
I see no objections. It is so decided.
The UN Environment Assembly voted unanimously at this meeting in the Kenyan capital Nairobi for a resolution to end plastic pollution. It sets the stage for international negotiations designed to produce a treaty by 2024. The treaty would cover the full life cycle of plastics, including production, design, and disposal. The head of the UN Environment Program said it was an historic step.
The bottom line is we will eliminate plastic pollution from our environment, and that is critical. And so without a doubt, this is a very, very big decision.
And for more on this, we've invited Richard Munang onto the program. He is the Deputy Director of the UN Environment Assembly's Africa office. He's also Climate Coordinator for Africa, and he joins me now from Nairobi, where the summit has been taking place. Welcome to DW News Africa, Richard. You've described the passing of this resolution as history being made. Tell us, why is it so significant, Richard? What will it change?
Thank you very much for having me. This resolution that have been adopted by the United Nations Environment Assembly UNIA 5.2 is quite very significant because we are at a time when the environmental challenges are actually on the weight of the entire world. And if you look at plastics, it's not just a menace to the environment, but as we speak today, every year 11 million tons of plastics are actually getting into the oceans and littering and destroying aquatic life and killing up to 100,000 marine animals. This is a huge issue.